are a lot of explosives in the Syndicate arsenal, and these videos happen to be out of date really quickly, so we're just going to speed through information. The cheapest explosive, in quotations, available to all Syndicate agents, including nuclear operatives, of course, is the smoke grenade. The smoke grenade is a singular telecrystal. It has a timer set to 3 seconds, and there's no way around this timer. You can pick it up in your hand and press Z, and this will have a 30-second smoke effect. The smoke spreads out in a pretty much plus-shaped pattern at first, but that does not stay consistent. So if you're trying to do like some weird calculations of how far your smoke's gonna go, good luck. But you can cover entire rooms in a thick plumage. If you're inside, you cannot see anything. I'm just doing it as a ghost because it's way easier to see what explosives and stuff look like as a ghost. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, the full 30 seconds of this is a great opportunity to get run through a area of darkness, loot a body in the smoke, and it all disappears at once. It doesn't like slowly dissipate. It goes from no visibility to full visibility instantly, so you really have a tight window to work with. Next up is another one telecrystal purchase, is Flashbang. This is not technically a Syndicate item, but Syndicates can purchase it. It has a 3-second timer and a very distinct beep. It will blind everyone in a 7-tile radius, which far exceeds the actual activation. For example, the activation will go to about here, but you could definitely be blinded from out here. If you do not have flash protection, you'll be slowed for 8 seconds, and you'll be blind for about 3 or 4 seconds as it gradually fades away, but the movement speed slowdown will last the entire time. So you need flash protection to avoid this. Flash protection is not all that hard to get. Welding mask, sunglasses, sec HUDs, you name it, sec glasses, I mean. But either way, it's a usable and good item against people without flash protection, but usually the targets that are fighting back will probably have flash protection, aka security command, well, like captain and stuff, will not really be vulnerable to these flashbangs. It's a very specific situational item. That's why it's on TC. Next up is an EMP Grenade. This will disable all electronic devices in a 5.5 tile radius after a 3-second detonation. It costs 2 telecrystals. So once you put it down, I'll just put it like 5 tiles away here, and we'll see that lights within a 5.5 tile radius will break. Any device within that radius will be disabled for a minute if it isn't broken. So like, for example, like vending machines will have like issues for a full minute. APCs will be drained for a minute. It doesn't really do enough battery drainage to like take out substations, but it can take out a room's power for a very short time. This gets rid of all like electrical batteries from like stun batons, energy weapons, you name it. Very, very powerful for only being 2 telecrystals. I also forgot to mention the EMP can also be discounted down to 1 singular telecrystal, so you can get 1 EMP grenade for 1 telecrystal if you're lucky. Up next in the explosive list is C4. Again, this is for upstream. C4 has a lot of ways to detonate. You can pick up in your hand and press Z, or you can right click it and set the delay from anywhere from 10 seconds to 300 seconds, and you can set it up to a signal, so you can set it up to like to blow up when a door opens. You can set it up to blow up in a remote. The C4, we'll just do some damage examples first. The C4 blows up in a 3x3 radius, with obviously most of the damage coming at the center, so we'll do 1 person above it, 1 person right in the center, and 1 person off to the side, and examine the damage. So we cannot instantly detonate the C4 in any way. That was long removed. They can technically chain explode, but that's not what the purpose of this video is. So the C4 again will blow up in a 3x3 square. The person at the center of the target will take 113 damage. Without explosive resist, they will crit. The person 1 tile away takes 67.5 damage away, and if you're on the outer edge, you only take about 40 damage. This is not really intended to be used on human or just any type of target to kill them. In a pinch, it can work. What it is really good at, though, is blowing up reinforced objects. So if we make a 3x3 square here, and let's just turn on the lights real quick. If we re-demonstrate this C4 and plant it right in the middle, by the way, if you just left-click something, it will plant it on the wall. As a non-admin, obviously, it will take some time to plant it, but then it will guarantee be on that tile you want to explode, which can explode multiple layers of walls. So in a perfect imaginary situation, it can blow up a 3x3 radius of, so in a perfect imaginary situation, it can actually blow up 3x3 of reinforced walls, but that's not really going to happen. It's really going to be to blow up 2 walls in a row, which is a lot of armories. You can get into armories with 1 C4 a lot of the time. Again, also forgot to mention, C4 can be discounted down to a singular telecrystal for 1. Up next is the Shrapnel Grenade. Normally costs 4 telecrystals, can be discounted down to 2. The Shrapnel Grenade will throw out a ton of shrapnel that does 45 piercing damage a hit. They do not fly a specific range. They fly a specific time. So they will fly at for a quarter of a second, meaning that the bullets will not just keep going down an entire hall. You can't like like suppress a hallway with it. We'll just quickly demonstrate it. It has a 3.5 second timer that cannot be changed. So just against no targets, if we detonate it here, you'll see a bunch of 45 damage piercing projectiles will fly out in a fan direction. It is fairly random, but it can encompass pretty distant tiles. So if we do that again, but actually spawn some targets, we can see just, I'll just spawn them in a random direction because no one's ever going to be like specifically in a like perfect direction around it. But this will give a decent representation. So if I detonate it in the center here, some of these tiles are 2.5 to 3 tiles away, and you see some people come out completely unscathed, some people come out crit. I don't think anyone necessarily died from this, but they probably got really close. So some of these people took a 135 damage. Some of the people who got hit by nothing, well, they obviously took no damage. It's hard to guarantee proper damage on the shrapnel grenades. Even a light was a victim here, but this can be really devastating if it detonates within a tile or two of several people. The bullets kind of pierce, so you could get a lot of value out of this, more than even like a regular grenade. Next up is the Incendiary Grenade. Very, very similar type of grenade. Shoots a same amount of projectiles in random direction. However, these don't really do direct damage. However, they do inflict fire stacks. We'll just detonate the normal Incendiary Grenade. It produces a lot of lights, looks really cool, and spreads out in the same sort of way. Each shot does basically no damage, but it will apply a fire stack, and of course you can get hit by multiple projectiles at once and totally and completely light up like a Christmas tree. And here's a rough test with people 2 to 3 tiles away, some like more 1.5. We'll see how many fire stacks this ends up doing. Against most of them, it didn't really engulf anyone more specifically. I think this ends up making this grenade a little bit more consistent for actually doing damage. Everyone in this radius actually got hit, but you can see some people certainly got hit by more projectiles and their burning lasted longer. So the people who got hit by one projectile basically took no real damage. However, some of the people who got actually majorly engulfed will have crit, and their internal temperature is, they were essentially cooking for a short time. Next, we move up to the Explosive Grenade. It is 4 telecrystals and can be discounted down to 2. This is a typical frag grenade, has a 3-second explosive with 2 distinct beeps before it goes off on the third, which has no beep. It blows up in a square pattern with like little edges in each like cardinal direction, but those do very little damage. It can destroy floor tiles and will destroy specific objects. If we just repurchase this and spawn in some Immerse, we can do some proper testing. I will just spawn somebody on the center and at each major point away. So like this is the full length of the explosive grenade. Detonate it right in the center and we'll see how much damage it does to everyone at each length. We see the person at the very center actually surprisingly does not die. They only take 150 damage. So that means if you have 50% damage resist explosive, you'll survive the grenade. Person 1 tile away took 124 damage. Person 2 tiles away took 67 damage. And the person on the very literal edge did take 22 damage, which is not insignificant because the difference between here is 22 damage and here is 0. Explosive grenades don't really space anything. If we just detonate a bunch of them, right here, just for example, just drop a few right here on this plating, nothing really happens. It's not designed to space things. It's just a frag grenade. This is probably the easiest one to understand, honestly. Next, we have the exploding pen, and yes, this is a pretty weird explosive item. This pen is essentially just a throwing explosive. It costs 4 telecrystals and can be down to 2. It comes in an exploding pen box, and then inside it is an inconspicuous pen. If you pick it up and either write with it or press Z, it will start the detonation timer, and there's no indication that it was indeed an explosive. It blows up in a perfect plus size shape. You can embed this in somebody and it will auto activate as well, so that is the main use of the exploding pen. If we just examine the damage, there's 2 damage types. Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot! As I was saying, there's 2 damage zones to really be in. There is right on the center tile and then the upper tile. So in the center tile, if you get stuck with it, it will do 120 damage. So really any form of explosive resistance will save you from being crit if you're full health. And the person 1 tile away only takes 45 damage. You really want to try to have this blow up in somebody's hand or embed it in them. Next is a Grenade Penguin, and this is a really interesting one. It costs 5 telecrystals and can be discounted down to 3. It also can't be found in surpluses, so something worth mentioning. You can pick it up and press Z to set it off like a normal grenade, and then it has no activation. It does have a countdown timer, and each tick is a second, and when it explodes, it's actually a pretty large AoE. It's a 3x3 with like little pluses on each side. It can destroy tiles. Trying to get it to explode like that and throw it like a grenade is not the smartest option. What the Grenade Penguin is mainly for is that the Grenade Penguin will explode when it is killed. It is not able to survive space, and it actually acts as a mob that attacks anything that is not a Syndicate agent. The damage it does per hit is not even all that significant. Each bite actually does 5 damage, and it's a mixed amount of damage, so you're going to be bleeding from it. If you fight back and kill it, it will explode upon dying. I think it has a crit state. I think it just explodes. It can space the floor. It does a lot of damage. If you're within the 3x3 radius, it will essentially do enough to just straight up kill you. And it was, I mean, let's see how much damage he did. This guy got bit a few times, but look how much damage he took. So this thing will destroy your targets if it's within range. However, people can pick it up and flush it down the trash, lock it in a box, disable it and throw it out a window or something. But it's pretty cheap, and if you just activate it and get lucky, because since the penguin kites, it could technically explode without actually injuring anyone. The Grenade Penguins used to not kite at one point, and they were way deadlier because of this, but I think people aren't expecting a Grenade Penguin to space when no other previous explosive spaces. Especially when this only costs 1 more telecrystal than a frag grenade. It's basically a walking, stronger frag grenade. There's a lot of potential here, and I feel like it's a very underutilized item still to this day. Next up is the Syndicate Minibomb. This is a 6 telecrystal purchase. The primary purpose of this is the destruction of bodies, but it also can be discounted down to 3 telecrystals. This can destroy walls, floors, whatever you want. It has a 5-second timer that cannot be changed, and we just detonate in the middle. It has a very, very distinct detonation sound. It explodes in a fairly small C4 style radius, but we see that it destroyed a reinforced wall. Gib the target it was directly on, and anyone caught on the outer edge will still take 450 damage. You cannot really survive this without having a specialized bomb suit. It also spaced the floor, if you can't hear that, right on the center with floor tiles. It did leave a hole in the ground. This does a lot, but due to the small radius, it's not really effective as a throwing grenade. It's more of a tool of assassination. You can cook it and have a great throw, and you will kill anyone you hit. It is high risk, high reward in that regard. Usually, again, though, mainly used for body destruction or very quickly panic, like spacing and breaching a room, because C4 is not even as good at like just causing spacing anywhere you need it. Next up, and the last normal throwing grenade available to all Syndicate agents, there are job-specific ones, we'll get to that in a second, is the Cluster Grenade. The Cluster Grenade is essentially 3 frag grenades strapped together. When you press Z on it, it will set off a timer, and it will throw them in different directions after 3 seconds, which will then have the grenades explode basically on impact. This has massive reaching damage, destroyed the power in this room, god dang it. Either way, there's a lot of RNG here in the way that they fly, and it's literally strapping 3 frag grenades together, but since they kind of explode on impact, you can really catch people off guard because they'll just don't know which way it'll fly. I've seen people kill themselves with it because it's just so unpredictable. But when you need an entire room of people deleted, that is your option. The Cluster Grenade can be discounted down to 5 telecrystals, and I think I said it cost 9. It only cost 8. So it's technically buying an extra frag grenade for cheaper, but you don't have the control over it, so it's really up to you what type of discount you consider that. Next up, we have the 11 telecrystal Syndicate Bomb. This is not your usual explosive. This is something you physically have to plant. This will destroy an entire department. You buy it, and then you can all-click it to anchor it in place. You can change the delay, but not any faster than 3 minutes, but you can set it all the way up to 900 seconds. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone ever change this, but once you begin the countdown, it will bolt itself into place, and it must be disarmed with a screwdriver and wire cutter. You basically have about a 50-50 chance of either defusing it or blowing yourself up. You can unanchor it with one of the wires, and then you can, well, of course, move it out of the station if there's enough time to throw it into space. I will just detonate this to show you what happens. Unsurprisingly, you can imagine this will kill pretty much anyone in the radius. It doesn't exactly give, I think, unless you have taken some blunt damage. But either way, anyone within the very close center will die. You pretty much crit if you're anywhere near it. It destroyed all of the solid walls in this rather large room. Reinforced it would have done the same thing. It is a department leveler. Nuclear operatives can buy explosive implanters. The cheapest one is the Microbomb Implanter. On death or manual activation, you'll destroy your body with all your equipment. So let me just inject myself with this. You get a special action, or again, on death, this will trigger an explosive. It is a not very big explosive radius, but if you press the button twice, you will explode yourself. In this case, the 1 tile away will crit from it, but 2 tiles away will not crit. It's pretty similar, I guess, kind of to an explosive grenade in terms of damage, but you can take out somebody who's eluding you and at least crit them. If they're wearing explosive resistance, they'll survive. Next, we have the Macrobomb Implanter. This is 13 telecrystals. This will trigger on death. Unlike the microbomb, this one cannot be detonated manually. It is only on death, and it is not instant. When I die, there will be a countdown. People can hear it from your body. Some people might assume that it's not a macrobomb, but the macrobomb causes a lot of damage. Honestly, not super far off from a syndicate bomb. Everyone in the line will die and take a massive amount of damage. You have to have very, very strong bomb-resistant armor to survive this. Even the person on the farthest edge the closest took 1,000 damage. And the farthest person, let's not lag out here, still took over 500 damage. So yeah, you basically have to be an RD at the outer edge to survive this. But people have plenty of time to get away. But if you're in the explosive radius, it's going to hurt. Clowns only can purchase explosive banana peels. They normally cost 2 telecrystals, but can be on discount for 1 telecrystal. If you step on it, since it's a landmine, it has a actual sprite that tells you that there is something wrong with it. It's like has a little spark on it. I don't know how intentional that is. It's a very, I've never really noticed that before, but if you step on it directly, you'll slip, and it doesn't do all that much damage. It's more of a joke item. I mean, it's a clown. What did you expect? But it's so cheap, you can buy 10 of them with all your telecrystals and make people fear bananas forever, as if they already didn't.
There is the Cluster Banana Peel, which is a clown exclusive for 6 telecrystals. It looks like a banana. It splits into 6 explosive banana peels after throwing, guaranteed fun. So chaining them together like that can actually do quite a lot of damage. Again, it slips you, but banana slips aren't too long.
In theme of job-specific explosives, there is a wet floors mine that does normally cost 5 telecrystals, but it can be discounted for 2, and only janitors can buy it. This is no way to activate it directly. You can actually wear it to like body armor and put it back down, so you could fool people with it. But when you step on it, you will not instantly blow it up. It is actually really interesting. It will only explode if it is tampered with or you step off of it. So if you try to pick it up, it will not even instantly kill an unarmed person. It will do a lot of damage, but since it's a mine, it's really for more so for assassinating one target. But if you don't step off it right away, you at least get to say your final words, wait for help, whatever the case may be. It's a really interesting item. Next up, we have the Hot Potato, which is another unusual explosive device. This costs 4 telecrystals, but can only be purchased by chefs, botanists, clowns, and mimes. It can be discounted down to 2. This item has a 120-second timer that cannot be changed. You can pick it up and even drop it, but once you pick it up and press Z, you must actually go into hard mode and hit somebody with it to pass it off, aka the Hot Potato. The Hot Potato actually burns you the entire time it's in your hand, so there's a little bit of an additional factor here beyond just the usual explosive. If somebody holds it the whole time, they will actually crit from the heat damage before it explodes, and I'll just stand 1 tile away from them when it explodes so we can see the damage it actually does to me, and we'll see what the damage does in general with the explosive part. The explosive radius is actually not too insignificant for actually killing people. It's similar to something like a mini bomb. Very interestingly, even a target just right next to them almost will die from it. It also does significantly more damage to the actual target itself. So it does 500 explosive damage directly to the target. And if we actually look at myself, the potato can actually do 750 damage to a target if they hold it the whole time. It's actually a full 1,000 basically on somebody who held it the entire time. And somebody who's 1 tile away will crit and then basically die right away if they did not have any explosive resistance. It's a very interesting item. Very great at distracting people. You have to basically struggle to find the CE or the RD to be able to tank it, or I guess something with a bomb suit. It's always a fun event to see, and for how cheap it is, it's really disruptive. Next up is a Syndicat. This can be discounted down to 3 telecrystals, normally costs 6. It is a ghost roll space resistant cat that can actually bite people, but we're here interested in the explosive capability. It essentially has a microbomb inside of it, so we'll just test it out in general, like this. So we'll just explode in the middle of these targets. It has the same conformation as a normal microbomb and explodes like so. Anyone near you without explosive resistance will crit, not necessarily die, but be close to it. People on the outer edge will be close to dying as well. You're a heat-seeking suicide drone that's a living cat. It's a little horrifying. Next up, probably the most infamous of all, is the Holy Hand Grenade. This is only available to chaplains for 20 telecrystals. It can also be in surpluses, funnily enough, but it can be discounted down to 14 if you are lucky. The Holy Hand Grenade, once detonated, has a 3-second timer. Very distinct audio for it. Gigantic explosion that will essentially kill anyone caught in the radius. Even the people on the outer edge take over 300 damage, so 50% damage resist is not enough to even save you from crit. It craters a large part of a department. It's not quite a department wiper, but if there's somebody you really hate in a room, this will not fail you. Up next is the Martyr Borg module. This costs 4 telecrystals, but can be down to just 2. When you install it in a cyborg, they will have a module that will just give them the ability to self-destruct. This is basically, again, another suicide bomb, kind of like the Syndicat. We'll just spawn a few Eurostin in a row, and we'll detonate it. It has a very distinct sound. Very awesome sound. Does not quite have the radius of an actual microbomb, but it can and will gib somebody you are right on top of. So it's more like a mini bomb in this regard, but a slightly bigger AoE. So these people are dying from spacing, not directly just from the damage. So if the person far enough away was very close to gimming, the target I was right on top of gibbed, and at the very outer radius, it's enough to basically crit you because it will space the floor. You're not really going to be able to get away if you're not already in like a spacesuit. And the person on the very outer edge was pretty much, well, they weren't even touched by it actually. So it's a very, very powerful, potentially round removing object that the person cannot get away from it and has no explosive resistance. The Power Sink is an 8 telecrystal purchase available to both Syndicate agents and nuclear operatives. Once you buy the Power Sink, it will immediately bolt itself onto the ground, or anchor itself to be more specific, and if it is on a high voltage cable, it will immediately start draining the power from the station. It needs to be on high voltage cables, which are the orange power cables, and it will basically drain power from the SMESs directly. If the station, for whatever reason, is lacking good power generation, it might literally drain nothing. It could say 0 kilowatts. This can cap out at 1 megawatt if the station is producing a ton of power. In order to remove a power sink, especially if you're the person who bought it, you need a wrench to unwrench it. And funnily enough, once it's actually unwrenched, you can actually straight up pick it up and even put it in your backpack. It is a 4x4 item. Despite the fact that it's a full structure, you can actually pick it up and throw it. It's kind of janky in that regard. I'm not really sure why you're able to pick up a literal giant electrical device, and you can see from a station that had no power on round start, just having the power sink anchored for 9% of its battery was enough to drain the entire station's power. However, if they do have full power production going, it's very unlikely you will actually drain the power. That's enough about that, though. We'll keep going on in the specifics about the power sink. So I've given the SMES its full charge to better showcase how the power sink works. I will re-anchor it down on a high voltage cable. The power pretty much always flickers the second the power sink is put down, and it will ramp up its drain. So the moment you open a power monitoring console, this is the most powerful tool to actually counter a power sink. The second one is detected, it will warn you saying a rogue power consuming device is detected. And you can actually find these somewhat easily, maybe not super easily, by turning off all the low voltage network and medium voltage network and only focusing on the high voltage network. You can also turn off show departments to make reading this a lot easier. Due to the fact that it has to be in a high voltage network, you can rule out a lot of random places on the station. So like it can't be anywhere in the center, it can't be on the solars. However, Syndicate agents could always rewire these high voltage cables into places like maintenance. So if you were to ever look into maintenance and you were to see like this cable go into this room and this room's walled off, that is a place you should probably check first. You do have a decent bit of time to actually deal with the power sink. You can actually see how much load it is pulling from this power monitor and console as well. However, there are also warnings you'll get on the announcement channel as the device generates power. The power sink, once it reaches 70% charge, will actually warn every single person on the station with a central command announcement saying system scans have detected a rogue power consuming device is becoming unstable. So you should hopefully have already known that this thing existed beforehand, either with the power going out in a certain area, seeing it on the power monitor and console. But if you don't notice it until it's at least at 70%, you still have at least 30% of the battery left to go before it will explode. Admittedly, that doesn't leave a whole lot of time, but that's better than having no warning at all. At 80% battery, it will start doing incredibly loud buzzing sounds, which can be heard from a decent distance. So once that 10% threshold crosses, it does become a little bit easier to find, but you still have to be within the vicinity to actually have heard that. At 90%, it will do another incredibly loud buzzing sound, pretty much one of your last audio warnings that you get. The third buzz occurs at 95%, so if you hear the buzz, you better hope that you're at the 80% buzz, not the 95% one. And there is the final buzz at 98%. So again, the buzzing sound isn't an indication that you're safe to go to it. It could be the last thing you ever hear. And the reason why the power sink is one of my favorite items in the game is because of this. I don't know where the audio design for the power sink came from, but it's got to be the coolest sounding thing in this entire game, in my opinion. The explosion effect is pretty devastating. It can wipe out an entire department. It will instant kill anyone nearby that doesn't happen to have any explosive resistance, but it on its own won't give you. The whole point of the power sink is that it can cripple the power grid of an apartment, maybe the entire station, and if it goes off, it will annihilate a department like a Syndicate Bomb. So it's stealthy in the fact that by the time you start hearing it, it might be too late, and its audio range is nowhere near as loud as a Syndicate Bomb. And I saved what I would just consider the most depressing one for last. The China Lake is a shell of its former self. It is a grenade launcher that you can purchase for 25 telecrystals. It can be on a discount for 20. Inside is the China Lake with 8 additional grenades. You have 4 blast grenades, and the rest are frag grenades, which are loaded inside the China Lake by default. So we are going to be starting off with the frag grenade. I'll just shoot a target dead on with it. This holds 3 shots at a time, but it only explodes in, I mean, the radius is pretty big, but the explosive damage is just, it's super pathetic. Now, this doesn't space anything. It basically does no damage to the floor. Water potassium is more effective at this. The person hit by a direct impact took 52 damage. One tile away took 30, and the guy on the outer edge took 5. It's basically just like throwing nothing at them. You'd have to land all 3 shots to crit even the front person, I guess 2. But there is also the blast rounds. The blast rounds are the more limited type, not loaded in the China Lake by default. We'll just send one downrange. You have to wield it. The radius is even smaller, but these ones will at least actually crit. The person in the front hit directly took 150 damage. The person right behind them took 114, and everyone else outside is totally fine. The China Lake cannot space the floor anymore. It does basically nothing to structures. This weapon is a sad version of its previous self. I don't really imagine people are going to want this that much anymore. I feel like you're better off just buying 4 explosive grenades, which have way more kill potential and will be cheaper and don't require having to wield and can be cooked and less potential of killing yourself. I don't know. Either way, I believe I didn't miss any of them. I think that's every current Syndicate explosive in the game. This stuff changes by the day, so this will probably be out of date by the time you're watching it. We'll see. Try to keep it short, concise, and simple. Thank you for watching.